Hello, 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 hello. How are you? This is Else Company from bmascraftycorner. And today we're going to do this. And this, believe it or not, is ink. Not spray inks. This is pad ink used as a watercolor. So I'm going to clear everything off my desk and we're gonna do some of this, okay? So I will be back in just a few minutes to give you a list of supplies that you're going to need for this, and hopefully you will enjoy it. I'll be right back. Let's take a look at what we're going to want to do this. We're going to want a piece of scrap paper that we don't care too much about. You're going to want some thin foam squares or thin dots. EK Tools makes a nice thin one. These are really thin. Nice to use for this project. You're going to want some dies, some watercolor paper, and then you're going to want a micro mister or some other way of getting it wet. You may want to use a heat tool. You're going to want a loose brush, one that you use for inks instead of paint. And then you're going to want a low grade ink. All right, let me show you why. So on this side of the paper, I've test swatched some inks. Let's start with this one. This is the Distress Oxide, and I put it on here and I got it wet and it just got fuzzy. It didn't actually move. These are dewdrops, obviously. Again, only some of the colors moved. The others just kind of sat there. These are Dilutions colors, and they don't really move at all. This is the Close to My Heart brand, and it's not fantastic. The best ones for this are the Vibrance, the Stampin' Up!, and these cheap Hampton Art ink pads. This is the Stampin' Up, this is the Vibrance, this is the Hampton Art. Okay? So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut out a die. And I think we're going to do this one right here. And I'm going to cut this out twice. Okay, I'm going to cut out 2 of these. So I'm going to get those cut and I'll be right back. Alright, so the first step in the process after you cut is if you want to make this dimensional, then you would go ahead and use your little boogers are backwards. Here we go. You would use your dimensionals to just a few. You don't have to have a lot here. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to just do it on a single layer. So here's my piece, and you guys can't see it, and let me get a piece of paper that you can see it on. That would be a novel idea, right? Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then I'm going to bring the camera down just a little bit so we can take a look. All right. There we go. So now you guys can see this. Now what we're going to do is we'll start with the Stampin' Up, and we're just going to use a couple of shades of green. This is Garden Green, and I'm just going to put it on there. And yes, I put a lot of ink on things, but these are old pads, and I really don't you know, I don't care too much, so not that big of a deal. So I'm going to add a little of this. This is Old Olive. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of this Sage Shadow. Just kind of a blue-green. And then I'm going to take this and put it right back onto my watercolor paper because now you guys can see it. And I'm going to get out my water, and I'm going to mist this. And then if I want to move the color around a little bit, I can use my brush. I can move it around a little bit. And if I'm good with it the way that it is, just going to hit this with my heat tool and dry it. I'll be right back. And so this is what our piece looks like when we're done. So that's one way to do this. There's another way. For that one, we're going to actually want to use our best ink and then our bad ink. So for that one, I'm going to get out another piece of watercolor paper, and I'm going to get out a set of stamps, and I'm going to get out a block, and I'm going to get out my StazOn, and I will be back in just a minute, and we're going to walk through the second process. So for this process, we're going to stamp some images using our StazOn, because we don't want this to run. Don't want to run that risk. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp these, and I'm using a piece of foam in the back here just so I get the best impression, and I'm gonna let it set for a second so that the ink can saturate into the paper. Now I've selected this one because I have dies for this set, and that will make it easier to cut and use for this technique. All right, and then the flower itself. Now you'll notice I'm not rocking the stamp, I'm not squishing it, I'm just holding firm pressure, okay? Alright, so now that I have these all done, I am going to get out my dies and my die cutter, and I am going to die cut these pieces. So here's the first one, and that is the second one, and I believe this one over here is the third one. So I'm going to get these out and get them cut with my die cutter, and I will be back in just a moment. Now for this one I cut out two pieces. I cut out the stamped image, and then I just cut out just the plain white image because I'm going to stick these together. So I'm going to get these out, and for the larger pieces like the flower, I can use these bigger ones. No big deal. There we go. Okay, and I can use one of the bigger ones here on the leaf, and we'll use a smaller one down here, and a smaller one over here. And then we're going to use some small ones on the stem. this is kind of a bonus to this, to the EK Success. They have like this little strip around them, and you can take this little strip and use it in the tiny spots. So I'm going to cut this strip off. There we go. And I'm going to cut it in half so I can put some of it up here and some of it down here. Okay, do a little bit more right there. Okay, so now I'm going to remove these, and then I'm going to line these up with the plain ones. Come on. Come off of there. Okay. And that's just going to give me a little bit of dimension. And I'm going to do that for all of these, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. So here's our 3 pieces, and I've added the dimensionals, so they have a little thickness to them now. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of my ink, I'm going to add some color onto this. We're going to do this leaf too. And then we're going to do the flower. Put some darker color down here towards the bottom. All right, and then, just like I did the other pieces, I'm going to get out my mister here. I'm going to tap, and I'm going to move a little bit of the color. And you could do this with a wet brush if you wanted to use a wet brush to add this, to do this. You could certainly do it with a wet brush technique. All right, and then I'm going to let these dry, and then we'll be back, and we'll go ahead and put these down. Be right back. Okay, so this is done. It's all dry, And we're going to finish this up. And I thought this would look cute on a little card. So I just cut a card blank really quick, and then I cut a mat for it. And I went ahead and put this through my embossing folder here. It's like a vine pattern just to give the paper some interest. And then I stamped an Eleanor Roosevelt quote on here. And now all that is left to do is to affix our flower and stem. So we are going to get these on here the way that we want them, just like that. And then I'm going to glue these down, and then we will glue down the mat. We'll see how this turned out. All right, so first our flower. And then we'll get our stem. We may not use the little leaf, but I think I like it without the leaf, so I'm not going to use it. And then we're going to mount this onto our card, and I'll use tape to do that. I'm just going to turn this over. And I'm going to put some tape on the edge here. Grab my bone folder because it's the easiest way to cut the tape. Now you could use this for anything you want. You could put this on a tag, you could add it to a journal cover, maybe on a page. Entirely up to you. I just figured I would turn it into a card real quick because that's an easy way to show you how it works. And I need a card. Alright, so I have this all taped and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece off at the top and these side pieces here. I'm going to fold out like little flaps. All right, so I have my card, and I'm going to line up my bottom and my two sides. Put my top down, pull out my tape, and lastly, my bottom tape. There we go. And there it is. That is my little card. My little bit of greenery. and the piece that I'm going to be using in the journal I'm currently making. So that's how I watercolor with my inks. Thank you so much for coming and stopping by today. I appreciate you watching the video. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that red button for me and subscribe. Like me, ring my bell, share me with all your friends. And your friends can be my friends, and my friends can be your friends, and our friends can get to be friends. And before you know it, we have a giant community. I go live on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I release videos on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I am currently, starting January the 8th, starting a Saturday Journal with Me program where I will release a video in the morning that will walk you through a process step by step to make a journal, and then later that afternoon I'll go live to answer any questions that you may have. Until I see you again, stay safe. Bye-bye.